Hilchos Ishus Perek Shlishi, the laws of marriage, chapter 3. Yesterday, we learned about some terms when it comes to marriage. Actually, yesterday and 2 days ago. And the big one was called Kiddushin. Kiddushin means the legal method by which you acquire a woman. Before you marry her, before you live together as husband and wife, you have to do an act that shows that you're acquiring this woman. And the Rambam told us that there's 3 ways to do it. You can do it with money, or with something of monetary value. You can do it with a document, or you can do it with engaging in relations. And the Rambam today is going to define exactly how each one is done. So let's begin with kesef, where we're going to begin with the money. Then we'll go to the document, then we'll go to relations, and then we'll learn a bunch of other laws, specific laws related to Kiddushin, related to the first stage of legal halachic marriage. Says the Rambam halacha aleph, how does a woman become mikudeshet? How does she become legally betrothed? If the husband is choosing to designate his wife through money or monetary value, the legal parameter is it can be no less than a pruta. This is supposed to be a picture of a pruta. Pruta was a copper coin in times of old, and it had a specific value of about 0.5 grams of silver. Between 5 and 10 cents today, you would say. And the husband has to give the wife no less than that amount of money or something of that value. An object that has the value of a pruta. Oimer la, you tell the woman, while you hand her the money, you tell her, Harei at mekudeshes li, you are consecrated to me, Harei at meureses li, or you are betrothed to me, Harei at li li isha bazeh, or you're becoming my wife through this. V'noisen la bifnei edim, and you give the money or the monetary value object to the woman in front of witnesses, and that's it. She becomes mikudeshes. V'ha'ish hu she'omer dvarim, it's the man who has to say the words, shemashmon shekoina oisa leili isha, which imply that he is acquiring the woman for a wife. V'hu sheyitin la kesef, and it is he, the man, who has to give the woman the money. So the man has to do both: give the object, the kesef, and say the words. Beis nasna hi v'amra loy. What if she did the giving and she did the saying? She gives the husband a ring or a coin, or and then she tells the husband, Harei ani mikudeshes lach, I'm becoming consecrated to you with this. Harei ni meureses lach, I'm becoming betrothed to you with this. Harei ni lach li'intu, I am becoming your wife. Oy b'chol lashon hakna, or whatever type of language of acquisition that she says, eina mikudeshes. She's not consecrated. The Torah says, we're going to see it momentarily, but maybe I'll bring it up now on the screen. Where's the verse here? Okay, we're going to have it in a different context, but look at the beginning of this verse. Ki yikach ish isha. When a man will take a woman, that implies that the man has to be the one doing the taking. What if she gives him the object, but he says the words, so she gives him the money, and then he says, with this, you're becoming mine, eina mikudeshes. She's not consecrated, because he has to do the giving as well. But if he gave the object of value, or the money, and then she said, with this, I'm becoming yours, harezu mikudeshes misafik. Here, there's somewhat of a doubt. The status of the Kiddushin is in doubt. And the commentaries have a bit of an argument about what the doubt is. But basically the doubt is that since the guy gave the money and didn't say anything with it, we're not sure for sure that he's giving it for Kiddushin. Maybe he's giving her the money for a different reason. Just because she said, I'm becoming mikudeshet to you with this, doesn't make it a proper Kiddushin.
I think they become husband and wife. There is no safek after that. So why it's safek?
Because in order to become husband and wife, you have to do Kiddushin. And this Kiddushin is in doubt. So you have to redo it.
Okay, if that's in doubt up to that moment, now
they're
living together.
Then that's not allowed. You can't live with a woman until you do a proper Kiddushin.
Oh, okay.
Gimel v'im kiddush bishtar. What if the man chooses to do the Kiddushin through a document? How do you consecrate a woman through a document? You write down on a piece of paper or on a pottery shard or on a leaf. I give all these examples on the screen. Or on anything that you want. You write the following words. Harei at mikudeshes li. You are consecrated to me. Or Harei at meureses li. Or you are betrothed to me. V'chol kayetze b'dvarim elu. Anything like that. And you give it to her in the presence of witnesses. And the commentaries say, all you have to do is give it to her in the presence of witnesses. You don't have to say anything. When it comes to money, you have to say, Harei at mikudeshet li. When you give the document, since it says those words on the document, you don't have to say the words. That's the simple meaning of the Rambam. Other commentaries say, no, you still have to say some words just to make your intent clear. When you write a document for Kiddushin, you have to write it for the sake of the woman who's becoming consecrated. Kiget, just like by a divorce document, you must write it having in mind the woman. You also can only write the document of Kiddushin with her consent. If you wrote the document of consecration, not for her sake, you had in mind a different woman, or you didn't have this woman in mind, or even if you wrote the document for her sake, but it wasn't with her consent, even if when you gave her the document, it was with her consent, and witnesses were watching, since you didn't write it with her consent, the whole Kiddushin is not valid, and you got to do a redo. Hey, v'im kidesh b'biyah, if you chose to consecrate your wife through conjugal relations, oimer la, what you have to do is you have to first say, Hareat mikudeshes li, or hareat meureses li, or hareat li liisha b'vi'ila zu. You're becoming consecrated to me, betrothed to me, my wife, through this relations. V'chol kayetze b'zeh, something like that. U'misyachid ima b'fnei shnei edim, and you have to go into a room, secluded, as two witnesses watch, ubayala, and have relations with her. The relations themselves should be private. Nobody can watch that. But the witnesses have to see you going into a room together. When somebody chooses to do Kiddushin through relations, by default we assume that he only means for the consecration to take effect at the end of the relations. The end of the relations, as defined in halacha, is when the entire organ enters the woman. That's already called gemar bia, the end of the relations. And that's the moment when she becomes mikudeshet. When he finishes the relations, again, inserts the entire organ, she becomes mikudeshet. Whether he entered her in the normal way or in the not normal way, which is called from behind, that's consecrated. So, Kiddushin, the legal terminology is designating a woman to be exclusively yours. The halachic tool that does that is either through money or monetary value, a document, or relations. The words that a man says when he does the Kiddushin, besides for the fact that he has to say the words that he has to say have to imply that he is acquiring the woman. The implication should not be that he is giving himself over to her. What would that look like? Let's say he wrote in the document, or he said to her, Hareini ba'alech, I am your husband. Hareini arusech, I am your betrothed. Hareini ishech, I am your man. V'chol kayetzu, was anything like that? You're giving yourself over to her. Ein kan kiddushin klal, there is no kiddushin at all. The words have to be Harei at mikudeshet li, you're becoming mine. What about some other forms of expressions? Amar lo ekasavla. If a man writes or says to a woman, Hareat ishti, you are my wife. Hareat arusasi, you are my betrothed. Hareat knuyali, you are bought by me, acquired to me. Hareat shali, you are mine. Hareat likuchasi, you are taken by me. Hareat charufasi, you are designated to me. Hareat birshusi, you are in my possession. Hareat zkukali, you are bound to me. V'chol kayetz, about anything like that. Harezu mikudeshes, she is indeed consecrated. Because all of these expressions clearly imply that she is becoming yours. Zayin, Amar Loi, Kasavla, what if he says to her or he writes to her? Expressions that are used in the Torah for a relationship between man and woman, but they don't imply complete relationship. For example, Hareat miyuchedesli, you are designated to me. But yichud means like, you're going to be designated to me like to get together with me. It doesn't necessarily mean marriage. Hareat miyuedesli, you're earmarked for me, set aside for me. Hareat ezrasi, you are my helper. Torah calls the woman a helper. Right? But helper can be anything, it doesn't have to be a wife. Hareat negdasi, you are my counterpart. Torah says the woman is ezer kenegdo. But you could also be opposite me, so it doesn't really mean necessarily a wife. Again, Hareat salasi, you are my side. Chava, the first woman, was created from Adam's side, so that would imply a wife. Hareat segurasi, you are closed off for me. The commentaries say it also is reference to Adam and Eve. After Hashem cut off Adam's side, it said vayisgor basar tachtena. He closed it off with flesh. So there's an expression related to husband and wife. Hariyat tachti, you are under me. Hariyat atsurasi, you are held back by me. Hariyat tfusasi, you are taken by me, they say. Harezu mikudeshes besafek. In all of these cases, the Kiddushin is in doubt. It's not clear exactly if it was for Kiddushin, if it wasn't for Kiddushin, so it's in doubt. And even the doubt is only provided v'hu sheyiyeh medaber ima tchila al iske Kiddushin. If he was first speaking with her about marriage-related topics. But if they weren't even talking about marriage topics, we don't even worry about these words. Guy says to a woman, just out of random, hariyat negdati, you're opposite me. It means nothing in terms of marriage. If they were talking about marriage, and then he says it, now it's a doubt of Kiddushin. A man can consecrate a woman in any language that she knows. Till now we're using Hebrew words. You can do any language. As long as the implication of the words in that language is that you are acquiring her, as we've explained. Let's say you were speaking with a woman about marriage-related topics, and she agreed, she consented to a marriage. And then, in direct continuation to that, you stood up and consecrated her. But you didn't say anything clearly. You didn't tell her anything. You simply gave her the money or gave her the document or had relations with no words. And since they had been talking about the matter of marriage before, that's enough, and there's no need to say explicitly, I'm becoming yours. You're becoming mine. Similarly, witnesses that are present during a consecration, during the Kiddushin, or during a divorce, for that matter, unlike other areas in Torah where you have to specifically appoint your witnesses, for example, for a loan. If you want witnesses to watch a loan, you have to say, Atem Edai, you are my witnesses, watch this loan. When it comes to marriage, you don't have to say Atem Edai. As long as you did the divorce or the Kiddushin in front of them, the woman is considered consecrated or divorced in whatever case we're talking about. Tests. Interesting other expressions that a person could use during Kiddushin. If a man tells a woman, become consecrated to half of me. Does that work? It says the Rambam harezu mikudeshes. It does work. She's consecrated. Oh, what does it mean? Become consecrated to half of me. Says the Rambam, what is this comparable to? As if you tell a woman, Tihi ishti atva acheres. You and another woman will be my wife. And in that way, each woman gets half. So when you say to a woman, become consecrated to half of me, that's a plausible halachic scenario. And therefore it works. Because it turns out that she only has half of a man, and that's okay. But what if the flip side? What if he tells the woman, half of you is consecrated to me? That doesn't work. Because what are you saying? You're saying, I'm going to get half of you, and someone else will have half of you. A woman cannot belong to two men. Similarly, if he says, I want you to be consecrated to me and to this guy. Doesn't work, because you're implying two men at the same time, and that's impossible. What if he divides the woman into two halves, but he commits to covering it all? He says, I'm going to give you, here's one coin for half of you, another coin for half of you. Or he says, here's half of a coin for half of you, and the other half of the coin for the other half of you. So in the end, he wants to buy the entirety of her being. But he's going in halves. Says the Rambam, harezu mikudeshes. Even though he enunciated it in a way of halves, which is typically not allowed, but since in the end he covers the entirety, it works. The commentaries here debate it. They say that this is not so good. But the Rambam says it's good. Amar la, if he tells the woman, chetziech mikudeshes li bipruta hayoim, vechetziech bipruta lemachar, a little more stretched. I want to buy half of you with this coin today, and the other half tomorrow. Shtei chatzayayich bipruta, or I want to get both of your halves for this coin. So he didn't divide the halves. He just says 2 halves for a coin. Or we're going to soon see that a father can consecrate his daughter. So if a guy goes over to a father and he says, Shtei b'nei secha l'shnei banai bipruta. Here's one coin. Both of your daughters are becoming engaged to both of my sons. Bitcha mikudeshes li uparascha mechura li bipruta. This guy really wants to get a package deal. He says, I'm giving you a coin. Your daughter is going to become mine and your cow. Sell it to me also. Or here, your daughter and your piece of real estate for 1 coin. B'chol elu mikudeshes b'safek. In all of these cases, she's only becoming consecrated in doubt. This is less than the other cases. Why? So the commentaries explain, because here you can't point to anything directly. You say 2 of your daughters to 2 of your sons for 1 coin. 1 coin can only cover one relationship. Which one did it cover? Which daughter went to which son? 1 coin for a daughter and a cow. Which one, is it the daughter or the cow? They can't both work. So there's some doubt. Even when he says 2 halves for a coin, since he didn't designate that it's 1 half with this coin, 1 half with the other coin, or 1 half with this half of the coin, 1 half of that, then there's not clear designation, so there's room for doubt. And now, because we mentioned the law of daughters, so the Rambam goes into the father's capacity to consecrate his daughter. It says that Rambam Halacha Yud Aleph, Ha'av mekadesh es bitosh leila daita kol zman shehi ktana. A father can consecrate his daughter without her consent, as long as she is a katana, as long as she is in the first stage of development as a child. I'll soon show you the chart that we had yesterday. Same thing when she's a na'ara, a young girl. Here was what we saw yesterday. From 0 till 12 years old, a woman is called a katana, a young child. The moment she turns 12, if she shows physical signs of puberty, she becomes a na'ara for 6 months exactly. This stage of na'ara always lasts for 6 months. Classically, it would happen when she was 12, and would go till 12 and a half. But if it happens later at 13, it goes from 13 to 13 and a half. Same thing. The point is, during this time period of Ktana, the father for sure has jurisdiction over his daughter. And even when she becomes a Na'ara, for those 6 months, after the initial puberty signs, the father still has the capacity to marry her off. Shenemar, as it says, as biti nasati lo isha zeh li isha. Here you go. This is actually dealing with a bit of a tragic case, where a husband marries a wife and then says that he didn't find her to be a virgin, takes her to court. And then part of the declaration that the father has to make in protest is he says, look, as biti nasati la isha zeh, I gave my daughter to this man, and X, Y, and Z, he's making up stories. But the point is, from the verse you see that the father has the power to give his daughter away in marriage. The kiddusheha le'aviha. The money that's usually given for kiddushin goes to the father in this case. And the truth is that he is also entitled to all of her found objects, all of the money that her handiwork makes, and her ketubah collection, if the marriage dissolves. So the father marries his daughter off, they do kiddushin. They haven't actually had a wedding yet, just the initial consecration. At this point, anything that a woman finds, or anything money that a woman makes, or if she collects the ketubah, because if that marriage dissolves, the husband has to pay the ketubah, all of those things now go to the father. Because the daughter is still in the jurisdiction of the father until she becomes a bogeret, which is the later stage, a full adult, a full major. The father is entitled to everything until she becomes a bogeret. Again, that's the highest level of adult. Therefore, it comes out that the father can accept money as kiddushin on behalf of his daughter from the moment she becomes born until she becomes an adult. The Rebbe once said, here we see a fascinating thing, how women have more spiritual power than men. Kiddushin, in spiritual terms, mikudeshet, means becoming designated only to Hashem. And a man can only do kiddushin once he's an adult. But a woman can become mikudeshet, her soul is so spiritually in tune, that she can become consecrated from the moment she's born. It's an interesting mystical take. Even if the girl is deaf-mute or mentally challenged, and the father marries her off, accepts kiddushin on her behalf, she becomes a complete married woman. Once she reaches 3 years of age, she can even use the mechanism of kiddushin of relations. Because according to halacha, once a girl turns 3, she's fit for relations. And so the father can marry her off using that method of kiddushin. Pachis became less than 3 years old. If the father subjects her to being married through relations, it's nothing. Under 3, it's not considered relations. But you can take money or a shtar on behalf of her. Halacha Yud Beis, Bagra Habas, once the girl becomes a full major, Ein la'avia bar reshus. The father no longer has jurisdiction over her. V'harei kishar kol hanashim she'enam miskadches elo l'daitan. She's like any other woman who can only become mikudeshet. She can only become consecrated with her own consent. V'cheinim hisiya avia. Similarly, if her father had actually married her off, not just accepted Kiddushin, they went through the next stage also, Nisuin. They went through a chuppah and they got married. If the husband passes away or divorces her while her father is still alive, even if she had become married as a child, she now becomes into her own jurisdiction, even if she hasn't, even if she's still under 12 years old, because once a woman enters a marriage, an actual marriage, not just Kiddushin, her father loses all jurisdiction over her. So the two ways for a woman to enter into her own possession is either to become a full adult or to go through a full marriage which dissolves, either through death or through divorce. Yud Gimel. This is a very interesting halakha. The commentaries debate exactly what it means, and I'm going to give you one interpretation. Niskadsha koidem shetivgar shalei ledas avia. A woman is under the age of bogeret. She hasn't yet become a full adult. And she goes ahead and accepts kiddushin, money or a document from some guy without her father's consent. Eina mikudeshes. She is not consecrated because at this age, she's under her father's jurisdiction. Even if the father afterwards says, you know what, I like this marriage, it's good. Doesn't work. Even if that marriage dissolves, pre-marriage. In other words, the husband gave the kiddushin and he dies or he divorces her. She's not like a regular divorcee. She can still marry a Kohen. Not like a regular widow. She can still marry a high priest. However, and here the commentaries insert a however. The however is that the father can only not agree after the kiddushin. But if he agrees during the kiddushin, in other words, the woman comes home one day and says, Dad, I found a guy, I really like him, I'm going to get kiddushin from him. And she's underage, so he still has jurisdiction over her. And then during the moment of kiddushin, the father consents, even though she initiated it, but he consents in the moment, that's okay. And on that, the Rambam comments the next words, Ubein hi ubein havia yechaylin la'akev. Even if the father consented during the kiddushin, after that, both the daughter and the father have the right to withhold the marriage from taking effect. In other words, the father can then say later, you know what, I agreed in the moment, but I don't like it anymore. I want to undo it. And it works. Because she initiated it without his consent, so whatever happens later after the ball gets rolling is not fully powerful yet. And similarly, she can do the same thing. If she wants to dissolve the marriage, even after the kiddushin has happened and the father agreed at the moment of kiddushin, she can still withhold it. And the next line is fascinating. I'm going to give you one interpretation. Beinim niskadsha b'fanav, bein sheniskadsha shalei b'fanav. Whether she initiated this kiddushin in his presence, but the commentaries say it means while he was in the area, bein sheniskadsha shalei b'fanav. Whether she initiated this kiddushin not in his presence, meaning when he was out of town. When he was out of town, there is an opinion that says, the halakha gdolot says, that if a father leaves town, the sages gave the young girl a right to indeed consecrate herself. The Rambam is arguing with that. Underage, a girl has no right to initiate a kiddushin, whether the father is in town, whether the father is out of town. Eina mikudeshes. The kiddushin do not take effect, she's not consecrated. Yudalit. Hoysa habas safek bageres. What if a woman was in doubt as to whether she's a major? For example, yesterday we saw that there are what's called lower signs and upper signs. Signs of physical maturity in the genital area, signs of the physical maturity in the upper chest area. And the Rambam said that if a woman shows all the signs in the upper area but no signs in the lower area, she's in doubt. She showed some signs of physical puberty, but we can't call her for sure a bogeret. So what if she's in doubt of being a bogeret, being in doubt of being a major? And at this point, there's a kiddushin that happens. Bein shekidsha avia shalei ledaita. Bein shekidsha hi atzma shalei ledas avia. Whether her father consecrates her without her consent, whether she consecrates herself without her father's consent, harezu mikudeshes b'safek. Since she's in doubt, the kiddushin is in doubt. Lefichach tzricha get misafek. Therefore, if the husband wants to dissolve the marriage, he has to give her a divorce, a proper divorce, out of doubt, because possibly it's a real marriage. And with that, we move to the next topic in this chapter, shlichut. Yesh la'ish lasis shliach lekadesh la'isha. A man can appoint an agent. We have a famous principle in halacha that says shlucho shel adam kemoto. A person's agent is just like himself. And so, Just like if you wanted to initiate the marriage, you could consecrate a woman. A person can also appoint an agent to consecrate a woman for him. Bein isha plainis, bein isha mishar anashim. You can be direct or indirect. You can say, get me that woman, or get me a woman. Like in last week's parsha, Avraham Avinu told Eliezer, go get a wife. He didn't say who. Get a wife for my son Yitzchak. And that works. A woman who is a major, an adult, she can appoint an agent to receive the Kiddushin, money or document or whatever. Again, whether it's a certain man, she says, get Kiddushin from that guy, or from a guy. Go to town, any eligible bachelors that want to give you Kiddushin, I'm open. A father can also make an agent to receive Kiddushin money on behalf of his daughter while she's in his jurisdiction. Not only that, very rare case. The father can tell the woman, the girl, while she's a child, you become my agent. Go get your Kiddushin money from that guy. Usually a child cannot become a shliach, cannot become an agent. But over here the commentary says, since he's doing it for her benefit, she can act in that capacity. Tesvav. Any person who is appointing an agent to receive Kiddushin. So if it's a woman making the agent, or a father making an agent for his daughter, he must appoint that witness in front of that shliach in front of witnesses. But if it's the man who's making an agent to get a woman for him, the appointment there doesn't have to be done with witnesses. Now again, it's important to point out, the actual act of Kiddushin, when the agent does it with the woman, that'll have to be done with witnesses watching. But the appointment of the agent doesn't have to be done with witnesses. Fascinating thing. The witnesses, when it comes to the man appointing an agent, are really doing nothing. They serve no purpose outside of providing verification that it happened. In other words, why do we have a witness watching when I make an agent? Just so later, if I deny it, they'll say, no, we saw it happen. But on the flip side, when a woman is making an agent to accept the Kiddushin, there's also an element of marriage taking place over there, because she wants this person to come in place of her. And so witnesses have to watch that, because there's more to the story than just veracity of whether he appointed the agent. There's actual marriage involved here. It holds more water. Therefore, if the agent and the sender both admit to having appointed the agent, they don't need witnesses. If the husband says, yeah, I made Amnon, my shliach, to go do a Kiddushin, yeah, that's fine. Just like an agent for divorce. Or like an agent, if I tell you, you know what, I have a whole field, I need to separate truma for the Kohen, go do it for me. No need for witnesses. Anything like it, in any place in halacha. Because the agent of a man is like a person himself. And no requirement for witnesses. Only if you're making it to accept the Kiddushin. Tezayin, hashliach nase. In halacha, an agent can become a witness. We don't consider him to be biased or problematic to be a witness. Lefichach, therefore, let's say I appointed two messengers to go together. Say, Philip and Yosef, you go together, get me a woman. And you went indeed and consecrated her. You can serve a double service, both as the emissaries and as the witnesses. You guys together watched the Kiddushin take place. And there's no need to consecrate the woman with two other witnesses watching, because the two agents themselves become the witnesses. Every Jew can serve as an agent, except for the classic three, deaf, mute, mentally disturbed, and a child. Because they don't have maturity of mind. Neither can an idol-worshipping Gentile serve as a agent, because he isn't part of the covenant. He's not part of the Jewish people. The Nemar, and it says, Kain tarimu gam atem. The source that we can use agents in general in the Torah is because when talking about separating gifts of crops to the Kohen and the Levi, the Torah says, Kain tarimu gam atem. So too shall you separate, also you. It's an extra word there, also you. The word gam, l'rabbis hashliach, comes to include an agent. You can do it, and there's an also. There's another guy that can do it. Your agent. However, since it says gam atem, that means that the agent has to be like you. Uma atem b'nei bris, av shluchachem b'nei bris. Just like you are part of the covenant, your agent has to be part of the covenant. L'hoitzi asar akum, which excludes a Gentile. Aval ha'eved but a slave, afal pishu nasa shliach, l'davar shebemamoin, even though he could become an agent. For monetary matters, harehu pasul l'shlichus ha-kiddushin v'hagitin. He's disqualified for being an agent for marriage matters or divorce matters, because the laws of marriage and divorce don't apply to him, and if you're not in the realm of the laws, you can't be an agent for those laws. Yudches, shliach ha'isha mekadesh, when an agent of a man does the actual kiddushin, oimer he says the following: Harei at mekudeshes liploini b'kesev zeh oy b'shtar zeh. Usually you say, you are consecrated to me. But the agent should say, you are consecrated to X, to that guy, with this money or with this document. Im shliach ha'isha hu shemekabel kiddushin, if it's an agent of a woman receiving the kiddushin, so of course the man or the agent cannot say, you are consecrated to me. It's not you, you're consecrated to the man, the agent. You tell the agent, the woman who sent you, she's consecrated to me. And then the agent has to confirm. He has to say, yes, I've consecrated her to you, I've betrothed her to you, I've given her to you as a wife. Anything like it. Same thing if the agent is serving in the place of the father. He says, your daughter, so-and-so, is consecrated to me. And the father says, yes, I've consecrated her to you. The truth is, even if the father or the agent just say yes, they don't say the words, I have given her to you, they just confirm with a yes, that's enough. Even if they were quiet, but they showed confirmation, that's okay. If you were talking about marriage with the father or the agent, and you gave the money or the document to the father or to the agent, you didn't say a word, but it's obvious from the context that they're getting married, that's enough, and the girl who's being spoken about is consecrated. If you're using a document, you have to consider the agent of the father like the woman, and you have to write it with their consent. In all matters of marriage, the laws that apply to a man with a woman are the same laws that apply when one agent dealing with another agent or with the father. Yeah? Your people talk to my people, they have to act like man and woman, and all the laws apply. Yutes. Even though we just said that it's possible to use an agent to make a kiddushin happen, mitzvah sheyekadesh adam es ishtay ba'atzmai yoser me'al yedei shluchai. It's a mitzvah for a man to consecrate his own wife on his own more than using an agent. V'chein mitzvah la'isha shetekadesh atzma b'yada yoser me'al yedei shlucha. So too the woman's mitzvah is better to get yourself into a marriage on your own than using an agent. Another caveat. Even though we said before that a father has the permission to marry off his daughter when she's a child or a young adult to anybody that he wants, not a good way to go. The sages commanded, a father should never marry off his daughter when she's a child, till she grows up and she says, that's the guy I want. In general, a man should never take a young child, a minor, for his wife. Any woman that you marry, you should never do Kiddushin until you see her and you like her. Because nothing worse for a man than to marry a woman and then find out that she doesn't look pretty enough for him. And end up divorcing her or being with her in a state of hatred, which is even worse. Another exception, another rabbinic caveat. Technically, we said before yesterday, 2 days ago, if you do Kiddushin through relations, biblically that's a Kiddushin. You give a document, it's also a good Kiddushin. The same way a document can dissolve a marriage and divorce, as it says, the sefer krisus, you write her a book of cutting off, you write her a divorce bill. A document can also be used to begin a marriage. That's the verse I showed you before. This is describing divorce. A man marries a woman, she doesn't find favor in his eyes. He must write her a bill of divorce. So, if writing works to end a marriage, writing also works to begin a marriage. Same thing, marrying with money is also a biblical law, even though the method of exegesis is rabbinic. 2 days ago also, the Rambam said the same thing, that money is a method of rabbinic kiddushin. But it's not true, it's really biblical It's just explained, it's expounded in a rabbinic way. Shademar, as it says, Ki yikach ish isha, when a man takes a woman, the sages say, this taking happens through money. Shademar, as it says, last week's parsha, Nasati kesef asada kach mimeni. I've given you the money for the field, take it from me. Yeah, this is in, you see over here? This is Ki yikach ish isha, Nasati kesef asada kach mimeni. In Jewish law, whenever you have the same word in two verses, you can connect the two. So over here it says a man takes a woman, doesn't say how he takes her. Here Avraham Avinu tells Ephron, listen, I gave you the money, take it from me. So the word take it over here appears next to the word kesef, money. So if this taking happens through money, well then what? This take also happens through money. Chaf Aleph says the Rambam, Afal Pisha Ikar Hadavar Kachu, even though the principle is as it is, there's three ways to go, they're all equally biblical, money, document, and relations. Kvar Nagu Kol Yisrael Lekadesh Bekesef Ay B'Shaveh Kesef. The Jewish custom is to use money for Kiddushin, or something of monetary value. Today we actually use a ring. V'chenim Ratzah Lekadesh Bishtar, Mekadesh, you want to use a document, but definitely don't use relations. We don't start a marriage with relations. In Kiddush B'Biyah, if you did, the sages give you lashes. We don't want Jews to become too, promiscuous with this matter. Afal Pisha Kiddusha of Kiddushin Gemurim, even though again, the marriage of Kiddushin is a good Kiddushin, but we don't use it. We all Jews use money. We're going to hear a fascinating insight from the Rebbe on this. Why do all Jews use money? There's a big argument in halacha, and this is where you see how it can get very abstract. What makes the marriage? When you give a woman money, what causes what? Does she get the money and therefore she becomes mikudesha, therefore she becomes consecrated? Or through the consecration, that's how she gets the money? Okay, it's just two ways of looking at it. Which one starts the process, which one ends? It's called the kinyan and the kiddushin. Does the acquisition of the money create the consecration? Or does the consecration create the acquisition of the money? Okay?
The chicken or the egg?
The chicken or the egg, which one comes first? So the Rambam says that the kiddushin causes the kinyan. The consecration, by virtue of the fact that you know that this woman is consecrating herself to you, you allow her to get the money.
Yeah, but why would you give her the money if she refused?
Well, that's exactly the point. If she would refuse, you would take it back.
So there must be the
So
agreement.
it's the agreement before the kiddushin. Okay. There's a couple of proofs for that. I'm not going to get into it. That's what the Rambam says. Now, mystically, what does it mean? Does the money come first or the kiddushin comes first? So if you look at the Hebrew words, kesef comes from the word nichsof nichsafti, yearning to Hashem. Kiddushin, kodesh, means separation from the world. Which step is first in the relationship between a Jew and God? Does he have to separate himself from the world and then experience yearning to Hashem? Or is it possible to jump in with a yearning to Hashem and separation from the world will come later? So the Rebbe says it depends which way you're approaching it. If you're approaching God in a logical way, dryly halachic way, then you got to go first in order. First separate yourself, and then you can get in. But what do the Jewish people do? The Jewish custom is to use kesef. It means they say, you know what? We want a relationship with God that's beyond logic. We're jumping right in. And if you show to Hashem you're ready to go beyond logic, then the kesef can come first. And you can use the money. It's a fascinating concept. Chav Beis. Similarly, if you give money to a woman for kiddushin and you don't have a previous engagement, or you just go in the marketplace and you just give her money, afal pisha kiddushin of kiddushin gemurim, even though biblically it's a good kiddushin, we give you rabbinic lashes, that's no good. That's why today we first get engaged. It's a formal engagement. It's not a biblical engagement. And under the chuppah only, we do both stages together, kiddushin and nisuin.
But the Kiddushin is valid.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Why did we avoid this? So it shouldn't lead to promiscuity. It's going to look like a harlot, a prostitute that was before the giving of the Torah. You'd walk over to a woman, here's some money, come, let's get married. You got to create a relationship, shidduchin, and then you can do a kiddushin. And the final topic for today, chav gimel kala mekadesh isha. Anybody who consecrates a wife, bein al yedei atzmai, bein al yedei shaliach, whether you do it through yourself or through an agent. tzarich levarech kaidem ha-kiddushin. There's a blessing that must be recited before the Kiddushin. Today we know this as Siddur Kiddushin. That's the Rebbe actually himself officiating a wedding of one of his Hasidim. So you got to make a blessing. You or your agent. Kederach shem mevarchen al kol ha-mitzvahs. Like you make a blessing over any mitzvah. The achar kach mekadosh, and only then you do the Kiddushin. The Rambam's language implies that the husband, the groom himself, has to make this blessing. Even though today we have a rabbi, whoever's leading the wedding, they do the blessing, but in the Rambam's language, the groom is implied to be the one making the blessing. V'im kiddush v'lei beirach. If you did the Kiddushin without making a blessing before, lo yivarech achar Kiddushin, don't make the blessing afterwards. Shazu bracha levatala, it's a blessing in vain. Mashanasa, kvar nasa, whatever was done was already done. Ketzad mevarech, what's the text of the blessing? You say the following: Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvaysav. Thank you, Hashem, Master of the universe, for sanctifying us with your mitzvahs. V'hivdilanu min ha'arayos. You have separated us from all forbidden relationships. In our text, we say v'tzivanu al ha'arayos. You have commanded us concerning forbidden relationships. V'asar lanu eso arusais. You forbade us women who are only betrothed. You can't just go into a relationship with somebody that's betrothed. V'hitir lanu es hanasuais ayad chuppah v'kiddushin. But you did allow us to be in relationship with women who are married to us through chuppah v'kiddushin, through a canopy and the kiddushin. Baruch atah Hashem mekadesh Yisrael. Blessed are you, Hashem, who sanctifies Israel. In our text, we say v'hitir lanu es hanasuais lanu. Hashem allows those who are married to us, because if He allows those who are married, it could imply that you can take any married woman. No, unless married to us is allowed. Zuhi birkas erusin, that's the blessing of betrothal. V'nohagu ha'am, the nation has the custom lahasdir bracha zu al koishel yayin shel sheicher, to say this blessing over a cup of wine, as in the picture. That was holding a cup of wine. We do this today, or beer. V'im yesh sham yayin, if there's wine, mevarech al yayin tchila. V'achar kach mevarech birkas erusin, v'achar kach mekadsha. You make the blessing on wine first, borei pri agafen, and the blessing that we just said before of the betrothal, and then you actually do the act of, as we do today, you give the ring. If there is no wine, if there is no beer, it's okay. Make the blessing on its own, and then do the Kiddushin. But you should do the blessing before, like you do a blessing before you do any mitzvah.